Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Kathleen. I love that you
Hello.
your video on.
Yes, I try.
We're just gonna let people connect to audio and we'll get going here in a little bit. I think Tanya's almost connected. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome. Deb, did you figure out the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's just downloading.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Samantha.
Because I don't want to open it in Google.
Hi, Stephanie. This is Samantha. Thank you for the phone call reminder. I was out of pocket.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for making it. Oh, Bernie's in there.
Yeah, 1 minute and I'll be ready, Steph.
Okay, no problem. There we go.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yep. Yeah, we had a little glitch on the PowerPoint, so but people are still
There we go.
entering, so that works out.
There you go, Steph.
Thank you so much, Deb. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you guys all today. Hi, Bernie. It's really nice to meet back here. We are excited today. We have Carmen O'Leary with us, and we're going to talk about confidentiality. And so to get our meeting going, we have our elders meditation. Does anybody want to read it? I can read it. All right, monthly meditation. And again, we pull these from the elders meditation of the days. And this one says, I have always searched for my place and my people. Wendy Rose, Hopi Miwok. For every human being to feel connected, we must have the feeling of belonging. That is one of the values and benefits of a culture. It creates the feeling of belonging. If for some reason while you were growing up you do not develop the feeling of belonging, a search will be triggered and restlessness will be present in your heart. You will have a hole inside you, something missing until you find your place and your people. Remember, we can get this feeling of belonging when we realize we belong to the Great Spirit and that He really loves us a lot. My creator today, I belong to you. Let me feel your presence. Thank you. So I know I've said this before, but Musak always starts our day with that meditation. And to me, it helps kind of like ground us and bring us, kind of keep us in an open mind. And the message in this one reminded me of our Connect and Reflects, because I think one of our main um, reasons for being here together is to help you all connect. And you guys have very similar work, and so that means like similar challenges, and so it's just a time once a month where we can come together, and so that you don't, feel alone, and you can ask for help, you can learn from each other. And so that's that meditation. It seemed fitting. And so like if you are feeling if you're new and this is a place where you can network, reach out. And also, of course, me and Deb are here for you, and making here for you for whatever your needs are, your training technical assistant, but also there's many times we make calls and it's just kind of venting sometimes, or it's really trying to help you guys stay connected and to support you in your program. So with that, hold on before we go to the next slide. I think we have time. We have a fairly smaller group today. And I think it would be nice for Carmen to kind of get to know you all and where you're from. And also if there's any new people in here too, to help you feel welcome. So if we're not gonna do the four directions this time, but if we can kind of go through and just introduce yourself and where you're from and you know your program, that would be amazing. Carmen, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Carmen O'Leary. I am from Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, where we have 4 bands of Lakota people. So most of us have a mix of those, but I claim Ohinupa two kettle. I used to get to work with lovely Stephanie. She was working with Native Women Society at the Tribal Coalition here. And I'm just happy to be here with you guys all today.
Thank you. I think everybody's really familiar the names, but my name's Stephanie. If I haven't met you, and as Carmen said, I'm from Eagle View and Cheyenne River, and I've been with MUSAC for a little bit over a year and a half, and then prior to that, I was doing TA with Unified Solutions over at OVC, and so I do have some advocacy, but experience and working non-tribal a shelter for out in South Dakota, but also some work in direct service for our tribe at the prosecutor's office and for child protection. And so I just, if I haven't met you, which that is a little bit about me. I don't know if Deb, oh yeah, you can, Deb.
Yeah, I didn't mute me yet. So my name is Deb Bush and I am from the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. I have been in the health services field for over 20 years. I did run a DV and sexual assault program with the TSAS grant. And I'm just really happy to be here with you today.
Whoever wants to go, otherwise I can just kind of call down the on the screen that what I see.
Hi, my name is Vera Julius, and I am from Lummi Nation, and I am the sexual assault advocate with Lummi Victims of Crime. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Vera. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anissa Sabori. I am Western Shoshone. I'm with the Timuc tribe of in Elko. I work for Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe for the Victim Services Program. I'm fairly new here. I'm not new to victim services. My career and background is in social work, but it's really good to be here right now. Helping this department grow, and right now we're working on getting new funding, just a lot of good things happening and hiring staff. And I do have someone who's going to be coming on board, Sarah, and she's online right now, and I'm excited to have her under this grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. We're excited for you also.
I'll go ahead and go. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Iowa Tribe of Oklahoma in Perkins. I work as the sexual assault advocate. We are we're getting ready to move into our new building next month, so we will have more space and hopefully more opportunities to do things when we get there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bernie. Go. Oh, I'm Bernie Lassart from the Coeur d'Alene tribe in Plummer, Idaho, and I manage the tribe's domestic violence and sexual assault program. 20 years this year, and I'm also a nurse. I'm Debbie Duchesne. I work with Bernie Lassart. I've been with her for 10 years. I'm the domestic violence and sexual assault advocate here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Cook. I am from the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. in Akwesasne, New York, and I am the Community Advocacy Program Manager. I oversee our Three Sisters Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Program, our Family Advocacy Program, and Transitional Housing.
Mioe, Samantha Thornsberry. I'm a member of the Kuya Band. I'm the program director for the Kuya Consortium, and I'm also a tribal council leader. I'm here with a couple of my colleagues, Pat and Anu, and we're just listening in today. This is my first meeting. I missed the first one. I apologize for that. I guess we're just getting underway with this project and bringing on another office that we're going to do a lot of therapy through, and an essay advocate. So we're really excited to have this project going. Good to see you all.
Thank you and welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shannon Claw. I am on the western side of the Navajo Reservation. I am the Director of Trauma and Victim Services, and I'm also a SAY nurse. And I have two of my program staff with me. They will be introducing themselves, and we're located in Arizona.
Used to have a
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette Gilmore. I'm with Tuba City Regional Healthcare Corporation Victim Services, where I work with Shannon and Garris. Garris is our victim advocate, and I'm the program coordinator. I see some familiar people on, and it's good to see your names. It's nice to see all of you.
Veronica, are you having audio issues? Yeah, I can't hear you. I thought I could hear you when you were
I just texted her. She said that. I told her, I was like, no, we can't hear you. And then it went direct to her. So I told her, I was like, I see you keep on trying to speak and you're like, what? But yeah.
And I'm Garris. I'm victim advocate working with Shannon and Lynette at Tuba City Regional Healthcare. Hello.
Good afternoon. I'm Lacey Kelly, and I work for the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And I am sitting in today. Our sexual assault case manager left last week to accept a different position. So that position is currently vacant. So here I am.
Welcome, Lacey. Thank you.
Hello,
Hi, everyone.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll go. My name is Amber Tubby, and I work with the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians as a case manager for the Choctaw Children's Advocacy Center. And our therapist, Tanya Evans, is also on the call. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea Carrier. I am the sexual assault advocate for the DOVE program of the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. I turn my camera on, but my allergies are really, really fierce right now. My eyes are very, very puffy and I look awful. So
Thank you.
I'll go. My name is Kathleen and I work for Kinship Heals, which is a domestic violence sexual assault shelter in Massachusetts on the Vineyard. I'm an advocate and a social worker, and I'm from the Wampanoag Nation. I'm from Heron Pond, and we service the Mashpee and Aquinnah tribes in Massachusetts and some other tribes.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Summer Morez. I'm a victim advocate with Sexual Assault Services of Northwest New Mexico here in Gallup, New Mexico, but I'm from the Navajo Nation. Thank you.
Thanks, Summer.
Hello, I'm Beverly Nelson. I'm with the Strong-Hearted Native Women's Coalition. We're located in Southern California in in the San Diego County area. I'm the bookkeeper and also the victim services liaison, and I am filling in for my coworker Karen Wilson. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Beverly. Welcome and thank you. Was that everybody? Did we miss anybody? If we did, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And we really encourage you all to just brag up your programs in the chat, talk about, any or ask any questions. I think it's this spot is for you to share and ask questions and learn from each other. So please feel free to either raise your hand, use your mic, and then of course the chat feature. Veronica, she's introducing herself. She's from Oneida Nation in Wisconsin, and she's their sexual assault advocate. Thank you. All right, well, with that, I would like to introduce Carmen again, and she's going to talk about confidentiality. And thank you everybody for just reintroducing yourselves. As you heard, we have some new people in here, so it's really good for us to just who we're sharing space with, and who we can go to. So with that, I know Carmen is a very humble person, but I do want to read a little bit about where she comes from, and she's the director of Native Women's Society of the Great Plains. She's a citizen of Cheyenne River and a resident, and she's gathered her experience and expertise to develop programs that serve Native women experiencing violence for over the last 40 years. Carmen is a trainer on advocacy around sexual assault and domestic violence, and she's a certified trainer with the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center and the Law Enforcement on Domestic Violence. Carmen has worked at providing insight on tribal codes in relation to sexual assault, domestic violence, and protection orders. She's worked for the state, tribal, and national boards, and has given her wide range of insight on experiences around the issues of violence in Indian country. So I have learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot from Carmen. I look up to her as a mentor and a friend. And so I'm going to hand it over to you, Carmen, to talk about confidentiality. Thank you.
So I don't want to be distracting, so I usually take myself off the screen. Our group is called the Native Women's Society of the Great Plains. We're defending our sacredness. I'm hearing some of you guys introducing yourselves. I'm pretty sure some of you belong to Tribal Coalition. I don't see anybody from our area on here though. And part of our legal name is reclaiming our sacredness, because if we were in our traditional values and living those traditions, we would be considered sacred as life givers and as beings. And if we can reclaim that, I think it would reduce a lot of violence. But it doesn't do me a lot of good to sit here and tell you guys about your sacredness. I mean, we need to know that, but we need to get that in our communities too. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm coming from with our legal name. And I didn't name that. That was some women that preceded me and helped founder this organization. Anyway, next slide. There I am, Carmen O'Leary. That's my daughter, my granddaughter. It's an old photo. I need to replace that. This I've done many times. Cheyenne River Sioux, that's where I come from. Move on to the next slide. Kind of redundant there. Well, we're here today to talk about confidentiality. And I did hear that someone worked for a child center, but I want to stress with you guys that what I'm talking about today is about adults. We're working with adults. There's a whole different level of privacy and confidentiality around children's issues, as far as reporting and who you talk to and who owns information. So we're not going to talk about that today. Spoken, when we're talking about that, this is a dictionary definition. Spoken, written, acted on in strict privacy or secrecy. secret, it's a confidential remark. It's indicating confidence or intimacy, regarding private matters, a confidential tone of voice, having another's trust or confidence, entrusted with secrets or private affairs. Of information, it could be a document, it relates to all of that kind of stuff. Bearing a classification confidential, usually being above restricted and below secret. It's limited to persons authorized to use information, documents, etc. So classified. So that's the long confidentiality definition. And I just want you guys to kind of have an overall view of that, because confidentiality can mean different things in different areas. And when we're talking about confidential today, we're talking about within your program, the information that you receive from someone, whether that is an affidavit that they write up for information that gets relayed to you for whatever purpose from their medical record. So those could be some of the documents. Information that she tells you, all of that, when it comes to you in your job, is going to be considered confidential. Let's go on to the next screen. And I tend to talk too fast. And this little exercise works a lot better in person, but it really brought it home to me many years ago about confidentiality. If you guys were in the room with me, I would hand you all a piece of paper. I would ask you to write down one of the most humiliating experiences you can remember in your life. And don't worry, I'm not going to tell anybody, right? So I want you guys to all kind of think about that. What would that be? All of us have something different, but we probably wouldn't want to share with the partner. So then as you're filling out that paper and getting an idea of what that experience might be, I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. And then I'll come around and we'll collect those papers. Okay. So next screen. So we've handed in that paper. And at this point, most people in the room get a little bit edgy. There's some anxiety going around, right? I sound muffled. I'm sorry. What can I do about that? Can you hear me okay, Steph?
I know we checked it earlier, but it is starting to sound a little muffled. I wonder if you can get closer to the mic. That would help, or
Yep. Okay, and it might be when I look down, maybe I'm not. Everybody's getting it muffled. Was that better? I moved up closer to my computer.
yeah, it's a little bit better.
So we've handed in the paper. And people are wondering, what am I going to do with this paper, right? All kinds of things can happen. Where would this information go? And I bring this home to you guys because this is exactly what is happening when people come to you, especially around sexual violence. It's truly a humiliating experience. And it takes a lot of trust to tell you about it, right? So that's why I really want to bring home to you what's happening to people. Let's go to the next screen. And over the years, but I think I went to work at, and we can go on to the next screen. I came to this work in 1988. I went to work at a shelter, and the intake was 12 pages long. Can you even imagine? And people in crisis were supposed to fill that out. Deb, do you want to go on to the next screen? So, holding those papers, I asked everybody in the room is, how would you feel if I opened and read that paper out loud? Or even if I just read it to myself? And how would you feel if it was to get mailed to a relative? And like I worked in a very small organization here, as many of you do within your own tribe. And of course, I've heard all the horror stories from other tribes. What happens if one of the abuser's relatives comes to work in that shelter? They're gonna have access to all of that information, and this could happen in yours too. What if there's no policy on when you get rid of records? Perhaps your daughter, your niece, somebody like that were to come to work in that same organization, and they would see that information. You know, we really need to think about some of those kind of things. And this has even happened at sometimes. What if it's used to determine something about your raise or the rate of insurance, custody of your children? You know, people have gotten orders to have information released. I can remember one that just really bothered me because a woman had ran to a shelter to get safety. And that's what we want to give people, is safety. And then her records were subpoenaed by her oldest child, whose father was not the abuser, it was a stepdad. And she could have lost custody because she came to a shelter for safety. And so you want to think about what you have in your records, what could happen to that. Somebody could look at somebody and say, oh, she was drinking. You know, if an insurance company could get a hold of that information in a health setting, and what I'm doing is I'm talking louder. I'm remembering that I need to talk louder. So
Okay, yeah, it sounds
in a health setting, at one time, insurance companies have health records released to determine people's rate of pay. And domestic violence, if that was on somebody's medical record, they were denying insurance on that basis. And these are things that happened back in the 80s and early 90s. They can't legally do that now. But there are things that you really need to think about, is how does this information, if it gets in the wrong hands, how does it impact that person that you're serving, that person that you're supposed to help keep safe? So that's why we really need to talk about record keeping and confidentiality, okay? Next screen. And so what we want to think about here too is, what does that mean when you're referring to violence against women? So a couple of areas that we think about is our program files. What do we actually need to have in them? And data collection. Because when we get this money, we have to prove that we used it somehow serving people. So we have to have that. And everybody is different. You know, I really have a problem with women's names going into any kind of computer where it's hooked up to the internet. People just think I'm so old-fashioned, but there is so much hacking going on anymore. Even back in my day, when we first hooked up to the internet and the state was making us put everything into their records, I began to think about that. And so we only used numbers in that system. We did not put anybody's name in it. Our numbers were kept in a oh, now my heater came on and it's really loud. Hang on a second. I gotta think about this stuff in the future. So I turned it off, but the fan is still going, and I hope you guys can still hear me. So what we ended up doing is we didn't really keep any intakes. Our intake was like 1 page long. It took down the information. Her number was on each one single page, and we took down the information that we needed for the grants. Her age, the community she was coming from, the type of abuse, the number of children, their ages, that kind of stuff. That's, you know, whatever was necessary to collect data for your grants. That's what you want to look at. There was some other records. We had like a daily log that we kept, and there would be a meeting the night before, and people would tell you what kind of childcare they needed, what kind of transportation they needed, where they were going, maybe something about if they had a court hearing, things like that. But those kinds of things were only so that advocates could communicate with each other. And then those were shredded. That was someone's job to shred all of that every day, because that was just a journal to share with information between advocates. It wasn't part of her file. So you guys are all gonna have to deal with whatever your program asks you to collect and do it in a way that they require. But we want to think about what even do we need to put in there? You know, a long time ago, I worked in a hospital setting. I heard somebody talk about that. And we had a way of having to put things in a file so that we didn't share very much. You know, we aren't going to share who somebody's sleeping with, who someone's drinking with, anything like that. Yeah, I remember how it was called SOAP. So the subjective thing was what they presented, needing their help with. Objective was what we saw or observed. And I was working in mental health at the time. And the assessment, you know, what we could help them with. And then there was another thing about prognosis or whatever, and that was more of the professionals that would fill out that part. But it was very limited information, even in a medical record. And so we want to keep enough information to provide services, but not enough information that there is a permanent record of everything. So a limited number of people should have access to what the numbers go back to a name. You know, everybody can see a number. But even with that, it's limited. I worked in some research things, and you were not allowed to put too much into those, and it was even invalid if there was too much identifying information. So like one of the things there would be like, if you said that, pick a small community close to me, there's a grandma living in Greengrass, South Dakota. She's 67 years old, and she has 3 grandchildren living with her under the age of 10. I would know exactly who that was. Okay, so you see how easy it is to breach someone's confidentiality in our small communities. None of you would maybe be able to find her, but if you drove out here, I bet you somebody would tell you who that was. So you can see how identifying information, how easy that could happen. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Keep going. Who owns the information? This is really important. Who owns information? Sometimes things that we would put in a file, if somebody came and wanted all of their stuff, we had a 3-ring binder that had the information we needed. And it was just a page, and we kept that. It had her number on it. But whatever was in her file, if she wanted to keep pictures of abuse, if she wanted to keep protection orders, if she wanted to have her children's birth certificate in that file, all of that belonged to her. If she had medical records, whatever was in them, that information belonged to her. She could take it. We didn't have to keep copies of that. So we want you guys to remember who owns the information. Yes, you have the data to give to the whoever your funding source is, or whatever you guys need to keep for your programs, but she owns her own information. And that is one of the ways that we were, because anything that you have that is kept as a business record, I want you to realize that that is it can be subpoenaed. It can be used against her. So, you know, there shouldn't be a lot of information that is in your files. And next thing, confidentiality, and how the lack of confidentiality endangers women's safety. You know, there's just so many things, you know, whatever kind of information is in a file, and if it can go out, you know, if somebody tells somebody else where some woman went, you know, and maybe his relatives and abusers' relatives find that out, they might be able to, you know, harass her, make her feel unsafe, get custody of her kids, you know, all of the kinds of things that really do endanger women's safety. And, you know, safety is more than just physically too. I really want to stress that, especially around sexual assault. wondering what people are gonna think about him or her that has been violated. You know, the less other people know, then people will reduce what the victim has to carry. You know, thinking that everybody knows is really a personal safety. You know, for her psychological well-being too. And it will also make her feel like she can't trust your organization. And we already have that big problem in our small communities. I remember when people were upset because I used to work for this church organization, and the tribe started taking back their own money, which was great. And they had their offices up by the grocery store. And you know, the thing was, if a car was parked down by us, there was one reason to be at our organization. It was because you were seeking services around violence. But if your car was parked up there at their offices, you might be in shopping for groceries, you know. So that kind of stuff, how do you keep people's confidentiality in a small town? You know, the nice thing about being at a hospital setting is people could be getting medical appointments, things like that. But a lot of times in our little communities, it's hard to keep that kind of confidentiality. And of course, I already talked about the insurance. A lot of times in our families where there's an abuser or a rapist, predators, they get a lot of support. I know that sounds weird, but they really get a lot of support. Their families were going to be calling her a liar. A lot of times it's even family members or people that support him or her in their violence. And they endanger a woman's safety. So again, minimizing how many people need to know what she's reporting, what she's seeking services for is really part of the safety program. So you can see how close confidentiality and safety can be tied together. I just can't stress that enough, folks. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, Deb. And what do we value? You know, I see we're coming all the way from Massachusetts to California on this call. So I am not even going to begin to comprehend everybody's culture or value system. But this is something that I really like about us having tribal programs, is how are we putting our own culture into what we do? Where does it come from, and how should that impact our policies? You know, in most of our cultures, I know at least here is when somebody comes to you for help, it's really seen as being a good person when you're generous. You're seen as somebody that has something to give. And that has a lot of value. That is something that we saw as someone to be held in esteem. Instead of, oh no, not her again, right? Also, when somebody is sharing something that could endanger their safety, they're really honoring you as someone who is able to help, right? That is so important when we think about our tribal values and how we're going to carry that on, rather than to be like cynical or professional. If we really are living our own tribal cultures and looking at how we are living that on a daily basis, you know, what was our tribal cultures about things like this? Most of us, there wasn't sexual violence, and even if there was some harsh taboos and usually some harsh consequences. We can't always pull all of that off legally. I wish we could, but we definitely can use our values when somebody comes and honors us with their deepest, darkest problem and are asking us for help. And we should realize how honored we are to be trusted, to be seen as a trusted individual. And once your program loses that, people won't come And when they do come, they might not be able to tell you the truth. And that's really sad. I've seen some of those kinds of things happen. And it makes your program, it really hampers their ability to serve who they're supposed to serve. So hopefully all of us can carry out confidentiality and do it in a way that shows how we honor that person who has trusted us. And not sharing any information beyond what we have to. I hope that makes sense to everybody, and you know, I'd love to hear how other people might see that from their culture, but we'll try and get through it. And if you have questions about anything that I'm saying, please put it in the chat. We're gonna have some time at the end for questions and discussion. Deb, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, informed consent. Oh my goodness. Did you know another thing? I've done more things wrong than right, so I know what's wrong. Legally, you cannot have somebody sign a blank consent form. Please know that. You cannot have someone sign a blank consent form. Informed consent is what everybody needs to have whenever we sign something. I'm sure a lot of you have to use an in-health service, and they have a consent form, and if you look at that, and if you're going to make up your own for your program, you could use their format, not probably smaller font, but you know, the information. So when we sign a consent form, we get the opportunity to know who gets that information. What is the purpose of giving the information to that purpose or place or people? And we have a right to limit the time period the information can be given. So if a police officer was going to ask for her health record, you might want to tell her that she can put on there that she's releasing information from the emergency department in regard to her forensic exam, and that they can release that information up to 4 months, right? So that would be getting every piece of the informed consent. The other thing is when we're giving out information, you know, some of us are going to be in multidisciplinary teams. Sometimes some of our advocates are part of a child protection team. What else? CCR, coordinated community response meetings, those kind of places. Now I've seen those turn into like a gossip session, which is just wrong. If we are going to discuss somebody that we serve in any of them venues, she should know that that's what we're doing. She should know what we're going to get and why. Usually the purpose of us sharing with a prosecutor or law enforcement or someone else, and that she knows you're there discussing her. Because if it got out that, you know, someone was talking about me after I talked to them and I didn't know that, that would really be a trust issue, right? We could lose that, and she would not have a safe person to talk to. We'd be taking that away from her. So that's why I think it's really important that we know what informed consent is. And there's a lot of legal stuff out there too. So I'm really simplifying things. Most of my stuff I am giving to first-time advocates. Some of you have a lot of experience, and some of you are maybe new, but so I'm sorry if this is a little too simple for some people. But remember, gossiping about somebody just to have the tea to dish out today, then that's kind of like a form of violence too, if that makes sense. And I remember learning that early on from someone that it isn't a good thing just to talk about somebody to put them down. And you know, it's much better to be talking about ideas and how we can make our communities better and if we were to talk about a situation with other professionals to leave out information, if we're talking about how can we improve our policies, how can we improve our procedures, how can our response be better, how can we make people safe? That's what we should be talking about. You know, not that, oh, did you hear she's using drugs again? Or, oh, she went off to another town or whatever. What would be the purpose of that? We really need to look at that from a viewpoint. And next slide. And legally, what can we release and what laws regulate our programs on tribal land? Sometimes we're going to have different laws than what the feds have, what the state has. And sometimes we just use what the state has or what our funding says that we should do. Let's go to the next slide. I'm not going to take it too long then. Privacy is a whole kind of a different thing. It involves an element of personal control, the ability to control who gets our personal or sensitive information and knowledge and who does not. And privacy should be controlled by individuals. In this day and age, I don't know what's private anymore between our media stuff and what people can pull off of the internet or whatever about each one of us. It kind of worries me, you know. I live out in the middle of nowhere, and on Google Maps, you can look at my place from the top and see what color vehicle I drive, right? So, what is privacy these days? That's a whole nother thing, but we should have our own personal control over that. And if we have to give information to receive services, then we should still be able to control that information to some extent outside of our data. Next slide. And, you know, there's a lot of federal privacy laws. I just want to mention a few things like Fair Credit Reporting Act. You know, not everybody's supposed to know how much money we make, other than if we're signing for a loan. Family Educational Privacy Act, even though it's from 1974, there's a lot of things like keeping out of your files that shouldn't be going through. Privacy Act of 1974, it governs who stuff should go to. There's Video Privacy Protection Acts, Drivers Protect Privacy, and now VAWA from 2022, the most updated one. I don't think the confidentiality stuff changed very much. But if we get VAWA money, if we get FIPSA money, or if we get OVC money, every one of those grant programs has something about confidentiality in it, and that's a mandate of your funding source. Next slide. Then can we do the next slide? And how do domestic violence and sexual assault cases involve violations of privacy? You know, abusers, they do all this kind of stuff. They're surveilling her, making sure she says she's going where she says she is. There's stalking involved in most of these cases, monitoring friendships, phone calls, emails, using air tags, using sensitive private information before, during, or after a relationship or incident has occurred. You know, there was all kinds of little apps that you can have on a phone. I remember even 10 years ago, there was something where a woman left a relationship, but the guy was still able to tell where she was at, and I can't remember what it was at that time. But, you know, there's already been all of these violations of privacy. Abusing someone and using your power over someone, them are already violations of her boundaries. And we don't want to do that. You know, we do not want to be another entity having power and control over someone. That isn't going to promote the healing, which I'm thinking most of our advocacy goals are, is to promote healing. We want to give her back as much control of her life as we possibly can. So that's why it's really important to be thinking about how do we do that. And let's go on to the next slide. VAWA 2022 protects certain information relating to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and dating violence. Protections are a mandate for recipients of VAWA grant funds, and failure to protect specific information can result in a loss of funding. And let's go on. I think the next thing is about tribal laws. No, we'll continue back up. Yeah, VAWA 2022 got a little bit long. Provides a definition for personal information. That means anything identifying. I remember one program would put out a newsletter, and they would put things in on how they helped somebody, and they were putting identifying information in there. It was just ridiculous. So we don't want to do any kind of case scenarios like that. I use a lot of case scenarios in my training and stuff, but it's usually like a Frankenstein version of things I've known that have happened. We never want to give out first and last names. Some things should go without saying. We don't give out a home or other physical address. We shouldn't be giving out any kind of contact information, and that would include postal, email, or internet protocol address, or telephone, fax numbers. You can tell how out of date I am. Fax numbers, who uses that email. And of course, we don't put a social security number on anything, I hope. And any other information, including a date of birth, racial or ethnic background, religious affiliation, any of those kinds of things are absolute no-nos, and they're specified. Let's go on to the next slide. So there's exception. We can go on to the exception. Next slide. If you have written informed consent, that's when you can share stuff. And we've already talked about the mandates around that. And you have to educate the people you serve about the data that they share and how or when it might be disclosed, if at all. If you have to tell somebody about something that they've shared with you, you need to tell them that. The time limited provisions mean that the consent is limited in time so people can receive the information, any request for information from any source. And this helps to keep the people you serve informed and aware that they are alerted as to what information is being given out and to for them. I think that that's really important. And if somehow your system is hacked or something, I think it's really important to contact people that their information is out there somewhere. I think we all get things about if I was trying to think of something. I think it was my Target card, that's something that I hacked, and I got an email about that. Anyway, next slide. So, Target can be letting us know. I think we could let our people know too. Deb, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. And privileges. Beyond federal law, there are a couple of ways that a privilege can be recognized. One is tribal law or code, or precedents in a published opinion. So privilege, what is privilege? We're going to talk about that a little bit too, because some of our tribal laws do actually give advocates, if you're trained, if you have a certain degree of training, or however they're going to define advocate in a tribal law, you might have privilege, it might be recognized. Let's go on to the next slide. I don't think this is the next slide. I also got duplicated. We'll go forward. And let's go forward. I'm going over that one. Not sure what's happening. Okay, here we go. Examples of tribal victim advocate privilege. Oglala Sioux tribe, their domestic violence code, they actually put advocate privilege in that cases. Most times, the only things that the law recognizes as privileged communication would be between a priest when you give a confession, or when an attorney-client privilege. And what I would like to have everywhere is that victim advocates also have that same kind of privilege. Can you imagine? That would have to help a person feel really safe. So it would almost be like confessing to a priest. It would be like what you would tell your attorney. And then you could refuse to disclose. There might prevent an advocate, elder, or medicine person from disclosing confidential oral communications between the victim and the advocate and written records and reports concerning the victim, unless the privilege is waived by guess who? Next slide. The only person that can waive privilege is, we'll go to the next slide. I'm sorry. That's the victim or the death of the victim. The privilege does not relieve a person from any duty imposed on mandatory reporting of child abuse or neglect. A person may not claim the privilege when providing evidence of proceedings concerning child abuse and neglect. As used in this subsection, advocate means an employee of or a volunteer for a program for victims of domestic violence who has primary function of rendering advice, counseling, or assistance to the victims of domestic violence, supervising them, works under the direction of supervision of programs, supervisors, employees, or volunteers, and any other way of doing that. Anyway, the privilege does not relieve the person from any duty imposed in the mandatory, and I can't see the bottom of that, so I can't remember exactly what it says, but we'll go on to the next slide. And again, if the person wants you to confidentiality doesn't arrive when the client service participant grants you permission to disclose information. Once you have consent, or you've given that informed consent and they've signed that release of information, these concerns aren't there. But remember, she owns the privilege and the information and the data, and she's giving you that permission. So when you're advocating on her behalf with law enforcement or other agencies, be sure you clearly understand what things she grants you permission to disclose. And you have a written form for that. We already talked about that. Liz, what specific information you can expose, says to whom it can be disclosed. It's signed by that person, and it includes an expiration date. Them are the legal things. I can't stress them enough, okay? I'm sorry if it seems redundant, but I'm hoping you guys hear it. Next slide. And here's just a few tips on record keeping. If information received is not privileged or it might be subject to an exception to a recognized privilege, be careful what you report. Your agency should have a written protocol about what information should be reported and retained, including guidelines and procedures for properly discarding of the information. Most of us have some kind of a retention of records on what we keep and what we can't. Best practice is to keep minimal information in client files, shred notes as soon as they are no longer needed. So, you know, when I'm talking to somebody, I might keep a couple notes. Usually it's just 1 word or 2 words. But I probably should be shredding that if it's anything private, right? We are not doctors. We are not usually psychologists who have to show why we made a diagnosis. So there really isn't any reason for us to be keeping justification. Okay. And let's go on to the next slide. There are some sources of additional information. Southwest Center for Law and Policy and Native American Legal Resource Center, Advocates Under Subpoena, Tribal Law and Policy Institute, Tribal Legal Code, Resources, Domestic Violence Laws, American Bar Association, Commission on Domestic Violence, National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. We have a lot of information on what laws from our granting agencies are coming up. And a lot of times people within your own organization are going to be able to justify what you guys are reporting or having to write down because of, you know, whatever your organization is doing. That's gonna be different if you're in a advocacy center than if you're in a hospital setting. So, is that my last slide? Yeah.
Yep.
Do we have any questions, discussion? I seen somebody share something about, creating or release information for their program and went through a healthcare attorney. And maybe that could be part of a TA to look at. I think that's an excellent idea. You always like that stuff that's already been through a legal review, right?
Right.
Any other questions around any of this? Any of you guys want to share what you've been taught so far about confidentiality? Did I enforce it or upset it?
I know we had quite a few programs requesting this training, so please feel free to share or ask Carmen any questions. We have her here for a little bit, so let's pick her brain.
I can share, or I have a question. I think one of the biggest things that I know years ago when we were talking about when we're getting the narrative from survivors, when they're sharing and making a police report, you know, well, at least for me being Navajo, sometimes that storytelling or sharing a narrative, when it's being held like in a chart with their SANE exam and everything, and then it's kind of put away in a file, it's like, I think that's where I have a hard time with that. I don't know, you know, do you have suggestions of feedback of like how we can handle that? Because that's really sacred. It's like, where does it go? Where does it linger? And how do we, what would be a good practice of like, we don't want it to just sit here in our office with us, because there's times where we've had blessings in our office because, not to say that it's negative, but to accept that energy as an advocate and for survivors to leave that story there and that narrative. And sometimes I feel like maybe I don't want it. and it's like, you know, how, and it just builds up. There's that tension, the negativity in the office. And sometimes maybe months and years can go by and it just builds up. And it's like, you know, does the blessings help? Should we have that often so we can clear out the office? What I try to do is I'll burn sage and I'll open the doors.
I think that's all excellent information. One of the things too, is, does your organization have a record retention policy?
I think it's at least right now, every 3 years. And we're getting into the habit of trying, and even with the data, you know, putting it into a new data system, because everything was handwritten. Like we have a storage room where there's like 10 metal file cabinets in there. So now we're trying to get away from doing that and putting it into the system. But then that causes another discussion of like everything's being held in there in a data system. And it's like, you know, who has, I mean, our data system is very secure. It's just, again, it's like, we don't know, we could get hacked one day and everything can just like be gone. And it's like, okay, what do you do with that? Where does it go?
Right. So most systems have some kind of backup. We just had that happen to us on Monday. Somebody's credit card was getting hacked or whatever, and they pulled it off, and all of a sudden we didn't have any access to any of our cloud or our emails. It was crazy. We got it all back in, but it can be concerning. The other thing is, you have something, and what kind of program do you have, Shannon?
We started using this new program called Vila.
No, I mean, are you adjacent to a hospital? Are you within a hospital?
Oh, no, we're a standalone.
Okay.
We have our own sane exam program and
Oh,
therapy,
wow.
all of it, yeah.
So there's a couple of concerns there. And are you located on tribal land?
No,
Oh,
no, we're not.
because see, if a rape happens, and every jurisdiction is a little bit different, I don't even want to begin to figure it all out. But like, if a sexual assault happened on tribal land and was under federal jurisdiction, there is no statute of limitations.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think all of that part, I completely understandable. I think my question was just like,
But if you've got sexual assault exams or you're keeping DNA, I'm not sure. I mean, there needs to be a whole different protocol around that rather than just written records. That's what I'm trying to get at.
oh, no, yeah, no, we're not. We did away with written, so we're all digital. What I'm saying is when survivors, when victims are sharing their stories, that piece of them is like kind of left here lingering, and we have to constantly do well, we haven't had one in a while. We would bring a medicine woman into our office and she would do a blessing. That's what I'm saying is like that tension can just build up.
Okay. I
And
got you.
how do we let survivors and victims know, like, thank you, we appreciate you sharing that story, but and then unintentionally it gets left here, and we as advocates kind of suck up that energy of like, what do we do with it? We try to debrief, but then what does debriefing look like sometimes?
Yeah.
5 minutes in a case review or an hour long, your own personal kind of go to your own medicine person and do that, or what does it look like? And so
And maybe our organizations, if we're really going to be living our traditions and we're going to be culturally relevant, maybe that is some of the things. Of course, are you native led? Them are the kinds of questions that you would need to ask to be within your organization.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can deal in some real toxic organizations or toxic people, and then we need to be looking at our own self-care. But I think, Stephanie, are you guys going to be having more visiting about self-care and how organizational wellness and I think some of your questions, Shanna, would be better answered around that kind of and I guess I'm not really prepped on ready to talk about that today.
Oh no, and it's okay. I think I'm just more venting. I think it's not a question where I'm asking you to answer. And I've talked to my ED about completing the Heal the Healers grant, where we can kind of focus on that, because that's where I'm thinking like that can alleviate some of that. But yeah, it wasn't a question to where it's like I needed somebody to answer. It was just kind of feedback, I think. Thank you.
No, it's great information. It's good ideas. It is about self-care, keeping your environment, your organization around that healing element, and it has to go beyond who we serve, but even for ourselves, because otherwise we can be carrying a lot of toxic kind of energy with us, and it's not good for us, our families, or the people we serve. Anything else, guys?
I have a question.
Sure.
But I'm not even sure what question to ask. So we work at a healthcare, and we are the first, I was the first sexual assault advocate the hospital's ever, hired. And so when you look at the EHR records, they will say, we have a sexual assault victim in ER, such and such, this is what happened. It's just a record of what the healthcare is doing. And then they'll say, we called Kathleen Eyre, sexual assault advocate, to come, and then, so then they'll say Kathleen Eyre, was, seeing her She was discharged and such and such. And so our department or our program got relocated. We had 4 supervisors since I've been here for 3.5 years, because they're still trying to figure out how to put a community-based advocacy program into a tribal healthcare.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an ongoing, and nobody really has any. I've never worked in a healthcare. I mean, you know, like a hospital setting like this. I've always, you know, worked at, you know, victim services, kind of separate from the healthcare. So it's a little bit, it's confusing to me sometimes. So when you talk about confidentiality, that's something we're still working on, about who should know, who should not. But yes, the healthcare got the money from the grant, but yet their policies are different than what we are abiding by. So that's what I mean. I have questions, but I'm not really even sure what to ask.
So, but here's the thing, you know, it is gonna depend on, have you ever been able to see the grant application that you were hired under? The
Yes.
job description?
Yeah.
You wanna look at all of that?
Well, they've actually written it down as well, okay, we were initially under the FAST grant because they wanted to try to establish some sane nurse, you know, forensic nurses here and have sane exams here, and then have the advocate, you know, established. And then my supervisor at that time was the SART coordinator. So we were called the SART team. Now that grant is gone, and we just now got the tribal sexual assault grant, and we have new job descriptions, and it's a navigator healthcare sexual assault advocate. So what they're saying basically is having me navigate the patient through all the multiple different departments here at the healthcare. So I'm the healthcare navigator, sexual assault advocate. So
I think it's just really, the most important part of your role then, Kathleen, I think, is letting the patient know, because that's what she is in your setting, is a patient, right?
Right.
But to you, she's a human being with a first name and all that.
Yes.
But you want her to know who you have to tell what.
Okay.
And mostly that you're there to advocate for her, not for the healthcare system, right? To help her with whether it's billing, insurance, getting to a mental health provider, getting a follow-up, prescriptions. Yeah, you've got a big job. And that's probably even going further than most community advocates have. But it's my understanding that you might have to advocate with her in any of them departments and get information for her. And of course, it's going to be on what her needs are.
Right. So
Yeah.
that was my confusion of working with the healthcare as, are we a team as a healthcare and we're coming to her as a healthcare and I'm just the point person, versus I'm trying to keep all her information confidential, but here I am talking to all these departments about her. But that's where I'm.
But it's important that
yeah,
you're moving under whatever your guidelines you have to move under, and that she knows
okay,
who you share what with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's important, is that she knows. And I'm a big proponent of that, whoever we're serving, that they're driving our work, and what information you're required to tell anybody, you let them know before they tell you anything.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that's amazing. So many people need your kind of advocacy, Kathleen.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you said that to me. I really kind of cleared the air a little bit, because sometimes I'm working on all these different, you know, little things for the grant and trying to get procedures done for, you know, procedures done for certain things. And Stephanie, by the way, I got the procedure done.
Awesome.
Okay, I did work on those forms, got the forms completed for the direct services, and I did complete the procedures, and I got it cleared through everybody, my all the finance department, everybody else. So we're gonna have that in place pretty soon.
Craziness about these jobs is we constantly are having to recreate a wheel that should already be there, but
Well, that's why I'm asking for like advice from other people who are advocates, tribal advocates in a tribal healthcare, because this is a new kind of opening the door for, you know, us. But it's kind of new, especially to tribal, you know, departments or tribal, you know, reservations.
Yeah.
For me, I've never done this, and for the healthcare, they have never done it. So we're just kind of the blind lead the blind. I was hoping Stephanie and Deborah could come over here and just, you know, give us that. Come on, we can do it. And this is the kind of steps you guys need, because we really, you know, I've done everything you wanted me to, Stephanie, except I haven't read all those orientation things yet. But I want to rewrite how we can get you guys over here, because I think, you know, I can give out the information that I'm learning from you. And because a lot of my supervisors are like way up the chain of command, they oversee huge departments. And so it's kind of getting lost in translation. And it's kind of, you know, I'm learning as fast and as much as possible, but I would love for the experts to come over and kind of just guide us in the right direction. So, I mean, I don't know how to write it that would satisfy, you know, Sydney. Maybe you can help me if you can, to just kind of get that going, and you know, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I would never claim to be an expert, but I know like I have a lot of people that we can reach out to and pull in. And Carmen, do you want to come with us down to San Carlos?
Arizona, you got to come see the beautiful desert.
You know what? I've been there. I got to go to a ceremony, a coming of age ceremony. It was the very first one I ever went to. It was way different than Lakota.
Wow.
Our healthcare is beautiful. I mean, it's 8 years old. It's got over 800 employees. We're growing immensely.
Wow.
It is gorgeous, and we would love to have all of you come down here.
Fungus.
Well,
Can I
maybe
say
you should
something?
have some kind of a conference down there if you did have some input on that stuff.
Yeah, we were talking
Yes.
about a site visit. And so we can meet again, Kathleen, after this if you want to stay on, or I can reach out to you through email. And let's set some, maybe just reword it how we propose it to Sydney, you know, this time we can yeah.
Excuse me. If I can say something, we were listening to Kathleen, and we're out of the Tuba City Regional Healthcare Corporation,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
previously I was at Sehoto Medical Center, where we were a medical-based family advocacy center. And right now we're restructuring this program here. If you have any questions, we're willing to help you.
Okay, let me get your number. Hold on, let me get a pen. I spoke with somebody from Tuba City not too long ago.
That was probably our director, Shannon.
Yeah, yeah.
I came on board in December, so
But
I'm
she was looking for an
restructuring.
advocate. It was just her running the show.
Yeah.
We talked because I was calling her up going, hey, I heard you got your, you know, you got the same program that we have in a
Right.
medical setting and everything. So Shannon and I, well, we kind of lost touch because she didn't have any advocates yet. She was still trying to establish like this trying to still figure out how to do the medical with the advocacy in a medical setting.
Right.
And yeah.
I worked with the Family Advocacy Center for 6 years, and I just learned so much and got a wealth of information from our director there. So I'm kind of rebuilding and modeling that program here at Tuba City. And I just got here in December, and I'm the new program coordinator. So she does have me and our victim advocate now. So we're like you said, redoing forms and redoing this and that.
What
We
was your
have
name?
very-
What
My
was your
name is Lynette Gilmore.
Okay. Gilmore. Hey, what about this?
Thank you.
When we do our site visit, can you come down?
I'll let Shannon know.
Yeah. I mean, the more the
Well,
merrier, the more, you know, honestly, the more the merrier. That way, Stephanie, you'll have 2 different programs in the same setting. We will gather more information and more, you know, tools, and, you know, I think.
Kathleen,
And maybe even before then, they could share
Let's
their.
party, man. We can do this. We can get it.
But even
together.
before that, Kathleen, it might be helpful for you to get them policies and procedures to see what does and what doesn't fit. And then you'd be able to ask, you know, how does this work in your setting? And
Right.
Tuba City, is that also tribal health or is that,
Yeah, we're in Navajo, we're 638 under the tribe, which
We are
is the same
638 too.
San Jose
oh,
Medical Center.
okay.
Connect you all, because we knew that you guys are very similar, and so I'm really glad you both are on. And
Yeah.
so,
And our plan actually is to go to both facilities so we could see both facilities when we go do our site visit. We'll go to both different facilities.
routing it out.
Yeah.
So Lynette, do you have policies and procedures yet?
We are working on that also.
So I started working with, oh my goodness sake, Fox Valley.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the whole thing, but it's from Fox Valley. Anyway, they had a grant that was able to help, us, right? They kind of like were our mentors on writing policies and procedures. So I wrote a generic one, right? But it's still generic. It's not finalized and it's not. So what our hospital said is, Kathleen, you write the guidelines and then we will write one policy that says follow the guidelines. So I didn't have to make ours such a procedure, you know what I mean? It was guidelines, and then the hospital just, would okay it. But I had put that aside because we ended the other grant, and I wanted some sort of foundation. I wanted something that we had, an idea of what we're doing. But I started that, and it's still here.
Okay. Well, it'll be good to touch base, and we don't mind providing some support for you.
Awesome, Lynette. I'm glad you're there.
Sure.
I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
I still think you should come down to San Carlos, though.
Well,
or maybe I could make a trip up there.
Oh, we'd like that.
That sounds cool. Okay. Sorry about taking up so much time.
No, that's great. I'm glad that you guys connected. Is there any other questions or discussion? I think that's perfect. That's what I like to see happen is people connect and communicate. We're just about to the end of time, but we'll probably have time for another question, or if not, we could say, everybody take care, keep up the great work. If I can ever be of assistance, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you.
We just appreciate everybody, and I'm so glad you guys are able to connect. That's what this space is for, so don't ever apologize for that. Like, we have a couple confidentiality links for OBW on there, but really that's the end of our slides also. And then the sex trafficking conference reminder, and then the community of practice reminder. So I'm going to send out after this, I will send out this recording and also the slides. So we'll have all that information and links on there. All right. Well, thank you again, Carmen. We really love your guidance and your experience, and just it's good seeing you again.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Hey, Stephanie. So how long is on March 27th, there's a law enforcement webinar through community practices. How long? It doesn't say how long the webinar is. It just says it starts at 11.
Hour and a half. I think
That's what we assumed, but we weren't sure.
Yeah, that's through the clearinghouse.
Yep. So MUSAC has multiple grants and projects and quite a few TA grants. So our TA awards. And so that one is through Afton. She leads that. But yeah, I remember looking it on there for you. Looking on there for you, and I think it was an hour and a half.
Okay. Okay. Because our scene nurses, our detective, we're going to reserve a conference room, and we're going to watch it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
I like doing things like that. I like them all like this.
You're doing good. You're getting a lot done. So I'm just really, yeah, you're working your butt off, I said to Deb.
I don't mean to overwhelm you with emails. I was trying to remember you came to the agreement like, Kathleen, just stick with one email link. And I'm like, okay, but then you keep sending me other stuff. And then I'm like added to that. I'm like, I don't remember which one was the one I was supposed to link it to.
Fine, that's
So
fine.
if we, maybe we can start from scratch again. And then
Another thread.
a new thread, because all the other stuff is kind of old. And we'll just stay as much as we can with that one.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fine. I really don't mind. I'm getting used to your style. Let's just say that.
I know I do the same thing to my boss. My other boss, I used to go, okay, I'm gonna put all the, things that need to be approved all in one, because she's like, Kathleen, you got this one, you got that one. And I said, okay, I'll put them all in one,
Yeah.
Need your approval for this big, huge area before I move forward.